What's up, everybody? Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So first, I just want to say I hope all of you had a very good Thanksgiving and are currently having a good Black Friday here. But there's lots of exciting news to get to this week, so I'm going to get right to it. The first is an exclusive thing that actually one of you guys sent me, a viewer named Mohammed. He was on a cross-country road trip and sent me some very interesting pictures of a camouflaged Mazda. And we're confident it's a Mazda because it has their infotainment screen there, and it also has their very similar design language, and so it's most likely a Mazda. He even thought it looked like a Mazda. It looked like it had a taped over Mazda badge in the front. Unfortunately, he didn't get any pictures of the front of this vehicle, but this has some very interesting stuff to this vehicle. Now, he said it looked large. He was driving on Interstate 75 near Fort Myers, Florida on a cross-country road trip when he happened to spy this thing just cruising down the highway. He said it looked like Mazda 6 size in person, but if you look at it, it doesn't look like a Mazda 6. The reason being, if you look at the comparison of what a Mazda 6 looks like, it's got much longer overhangs, and the rear window the silhouette goes and extends beyond where the window actually is and goes further. Whereas with this vehicle that was spied, it ends more abruptly, has shorter overhangs, and this looks to me like it is the new Mazda 3, which is probably going to be a little bit larger, which is why, it doesn't look the same size as the current Mazda 3, but that's most likely what I think it is. Again, I could be wrong. But I don't think it's just a normal Mazda 3, and there's a couple of reasons why. So if you look at it closely, you'll see first there's red brake calipers, which not a huge deal, but usually you don't paint brake calipers red on a standard, compact car. So that's an interesting thing, but it's really the camouflage on this vehicle that's really interesting. You look at the camouflage both on the front hood and on the rear deck, and it's a lot more bulky than you would expect for a standard sleek little Mazda 3. And yeah, you want to hide whatever spoilers you might have, as far as designs going. You want to hide the design of the hood, but let's just start with the hood. It looks so much higher than a normal camouflaged hood on all these other prototypes that we've seen spied testing from various manufacturers. You don't need something that bulky, especially it reduces visibility for the test driver and whatnot. There's no reason to have that much bulk if there's nothing to hide under a normal flat hood. And so for this to go up so high makes me think there's got to be some kind of hood scoop going on up front there. Out back, you'll see that the spoiler is a little bit taller than what you would expect probably from a standard Mazda 3. Once again, obviously we can't really see the spoiler. We just see camouflage covering up a very tall rear deck there and what looks like is some type of spoiler. Add on to that the fact this one has some slightly sportier looking wheels, which on their own you could discount, but combined with all the other little bits and pieces, the brakes don't look super aggressive or anything, but this just looks like it could be a sportier version of a Mazda 3. And then add fuel to that fire I actually did a little bit of digging, and back at 2014, Motor Trend did a story where they had some kind of insider who said that a new Mazda Speed 3 and a new Mazda Speed 6 were coming. So it seems like all the signs might be pointing towards this being some type of Mazda Speed 3. It might not even be called that. It could just be a Mazda 3 Sport that actually has more power. Because we know the new Mazda 6 that's being revealed next week at the LA Auto Show is going to be getting the CX-9's 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. We don't know how much power it's going to make in the Mazda 6 application, but we know in the SUV it makes 250 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque, I believe, or something around a little over 300 pound-feet of torque. So that's already very impressive, and it'll be great in the Mazda 6, and that's exciting on its own. And even if they didn't do any kind of tweaking to that motor, if they toss that into a Mazda 3, you instantly have a WRX competitor, a Civic Si competitor, all those types of vehicles. And, Mazda, I think, wants to compete with them, but they were always underpowered, whereas all these other companies had a higher horsepower version. Mazda never has, since the Mazda Speed 3 has died off many years ago. And so I think it seems like all the signs are pointing towards this. Add on to the fact that, we know the Focus RS is going by the wayside here, and they're recently been plagued with a bunch of head gasket issues. So not great news as far as the RS goes. The WRX STI has been killed off in all of Europe now as of the past couple of weeks. That was announced, and we know for the States here, it might not even stick around much longer in the meantime until a new one comes. But a new one's not coming, until 2021 or something like that. that. So you have a several year gap here where all you really have are your Civic SIs, your Civic Type Rs, and then, you have the GTIs and Golf Rs, and that's basically it. And there's rumors they would be putting all-wheel drive in this new Mazda Speed 3 if they were to do it, but that's what the Motor Trend article back in 2014 mentioned. And I mean, those articles, are always speculative, and that article specifically said the vehicle would be coming out in 2016. We're here in the end of 2017 with nothing confirmed or official yet, but things often get delayed, especially with the Japanese manufacturers. And so I think there's a decent chance that what we're looking at here is a prototype for a new Mazda Speed 3. I could be completely wrong and way off here, but it just seems way too sporty to be a normal, standard Mazda 3. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. And huge thanks to Mohammed for sending in these pictures to me. I really, really appreciate it. But let's get into all the official news this week and stuff that's been revealed. First off, Aston Martin has revealed the gorgeous 2019 Aston Martin Vantage. All new car here finally, and man is it stunning. I mean, it looks very similar to the DB10 from the James Bond movie Spectre, and it's just so good looking. I know some people don't like that front end, or they say it looks like a Miata or something. I guess you could kind of see a little resemblance there, but I mean, I think it's totally Aston Martin and very unique, and just like, especially that back end. That back end is glorious. I didn't think there'd be a back end that I'd love more than the F-Type R Coupe's back end, but I think this takes the cake. It's just so stunning. So anyway, here's some details on it. It runs the AMG 4-liter twin-turbo V8 engine. In the Aston Martin application, it does 503 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. It runs all that through a ZF 8-speed automatic, so not using the Mercedes transmission, which is like their 9-speed. Instead, we have a ZF 8-speed, which I think is actually slightly better than the AMG transmission in a few ways, so I think that's good news. And if you don't like an automatic, they didn't officially confirm it, but it's basically a sure thing that a 7-speed manual is going to be available for the next model year, for the 2020, I guess, model year at the end of next year. So there will be a manual too, which is amazing because you can't get a manual on any of the AMGs anyway, so to have it here in the Aston Martin is great. Some performance numbers here for the automatic though: 3.6 seconds 0 to 60, 195 mile per hour top speed. It's as far as dimensions go, it's 800 pounds lighter than a DB11, so that just goes to show how much quicker this is going to be, compared to the DB11 V8. Of course, the DB11 can be had with the V12, which hopefully will be coming for the Vantage down the road as well. But in the meantime, we just have only the V8. But also the Vantage is a foot shorter than a DB11, and it's got perfect 50-50 weight balance. And that weight, by the way, is around 3,300 pounds, which is really quite light. To put in a comparison, it's about 500 pounds lighter than a Mustang GT. So really well done there. I mean, it's obviously a smaller, more compact little Aston Martin here, but man, it looks spectacular and should drive amazing too. Anyway, US deliveries are going to be starting in June of next year, and it's got a starting price of $150,000. Which is a screaming good deal if you ask me, because even if you were to go for this same power plant in Mercedes' own sports car, the AMG GTS, which actually has a little less torque, I believe, although it has maybe 10 more horsepower over the Aston Martin. But anyway, those start at like $132,000 to begin with. Obviously, these cars never sell for their base starting prices, but basically, if you're comparing car to car, base to base, you're looking at an $18,000 difference. And I mean, I don't know who, well, I'm sure there'll be people that prefer the Mercedes over the Aston Martin, but personally, I would gladly pay an extra $18,000 for the gorgeous Aston Martin looks and the exclusivity of an Aston Martin over just a Mercedes. And so I hope they'll sell a lot of these things. Apparently, though, they're already doing very, very well. Aston Martin CEO Andy Palmer said that 80% of all the cars they're able to build for the first model year have already been sold. And people have already, in the past 2 days since this car has been revealed, have already put in their pre-orders, and 80% of these cars are already taken. Of course, they're going to do several model years, so it's not any kind of limited production thing or anything. So thankfully, we'll be seeing lots of these things in short order, which is going to be wonderful, and so very awesome to see that. But Aston Martin didn't stop there. They also revealed their Vantage GTE race car, which is, of course, just these race-only, non-street legal version of the Vantage. And so as you can see, it has, the racing aerodynamics with huge spoiler and front air dam and, the rear diffusers and all that kind of stuff. stuff. So this is going to be for the FIA World Endurance Championship in 2018. It's got 530 horsepower out of that same motor, so roughly 27 additional horsepower, and it's got a 6-speed sequential manual gearbox. So that's obviously this race stripped interior, and that's just the standard gearbox it seems they use for these types of race cars. So anyway, very cool to see that. McLaren has also revealed their new racing car this past week, which is the 720S GT3. And so this is going to be another GT4 race series vehicle, basically. It's going to start racing in 2019, although McLaren's going to have their own kind of like racing divisions that you'll be able to do in 2018 with these. And there are no performance specifics given on them. Most likely, again, just a slightly amped up version of what you get in the standard car, and of course the more hardcore aerodynamics, interior, suspension, all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, very cool to see that. But anyway, back to street cars here. Lincoln this past week has revealed their refreshed 2019 MKC. And so as you can see, it's mostly the front end that gets the restyle. It's basically they're putting this Continental grille on all the Lincoln models now, which I think kind of does the Continental a disservice, to be perfectly honest. But everyone wants to have a corporate face and they want all their front ends to look very, very similar. And so Lincoln's just following that trend here. It has a slightly revised back end as well, but very few changes outside of that front end. A couple of the other changes, though, you can now get the driver assistance systems, and there's also a black label trim available here now for the MKC, and some of the perks that you get with Lincoln ownership. I think this is only black label, but you get annual vehicle detailing, anytime car washes, and then access to a list of curated restaurants where I guess these chefs that have been vetted by Lincoln can prepare you special dishes. It seems a little overboard, to be perfectly honest, but they're really trying to amp up this special feeling of owning a Lincoln. Another perk that I think is for all MKC purchasers are that they actually will come to your house and pick up your vehicle for its services and leave a loaner for you to drive around while your car is gone. So a nice service there, a little concierge thing. But anyway, as far as these black labels, there's 3 different themes for the interiors for the black label. There's Modern Heritage, which is a clean, modern aesthetic and Bianca white Venetian leather. There's Indulgence, which is surfaces trimmed in Venetian leather, once again, but Alcantara, and some accents with Zeracote wood. And then the last one is Center Stage, which is inspired, they say, by the world of theater, including a diamond L perforation pattern on the Alcantara cloth inserts, finished with precisely stitched foxfire red piping, exotic wood accents, and jet black Venetian leather with firefox red accents. So, lots of Alcantara in a vehicle that you think would be premium and only want to use real leather. Alcantara is kind of a cheaper material, so that's kind of interesting. But anyway, those are the 3 different options there as far as that goes. Otherwise, the interior is unchanged. It's identical to the older versions, but that's fine because I think the interior and the MKCs were very nice, and so cool to see that. They're going to be available here next summer, and as far as engines and stuff go, that is all the same as well. So it's mostly just that new front end, the new trims, and that's about it. So, but anyway, cool to see that. Infiniti has also shown off their new luxury SUV, or at least just one picture of it. The official reveal will be next week at the LA Auto Show, but they've shown off their new QX50, and as you can see, it's got a very similar styling language to the Q60 and other Infinitis currently, but I think it's actually a really good look. Like I mentioned last week, this is going to be the first application of this new variable compression engine that Infiniti has developed, and you can listen to last week's weekly update for all the info on that engine. It's very, very impressive technology, and so anyway, that's going to debut here in this new QX50, and we'll have more pictures and all the details on it next week. But anyway, cool to see that. Another SUV that was officially kind of revealed is a leaked picture. So Lamborghini posted this new promo video for the Urus SUV, which is making its official debut on December 4th. But in their little preview video, they weren't showing any exterior, just interior shots, and we can see how some of the interior looks. It looks very cool. Again, we'll wait for all the official pictures for more discussion on that. But there was a little leaked image on the screen of the vehicle of what the front end of the Urus is going to look like. And so it kind of gave us a glimpse, and they actually pulled the video down and then re-uploaded a new video, which has a different shot for that same frame, so that you didn't show the vehicle as much anymore. So Anyway, what we can see from that one picture is it looks similar to the concept, but somehow to me, it seems like it's gotten uglier since the concept. It's got those like teeth in the bottom of the front bumper there that just really give it a strange appearance. Just my personal opinion on it, but it does look very aggressive, which is I'm sure what they're going for with it. And again, we'll have to wait till we see all the actual official pictures in the reveal on December 4th. But anyway, interesting to see that. Cameron Glickenhaus, who is a racer, he's built some of his own cars in the past, very limited production race car type stuff. He's trying to get into more mainstream production of supercars here. And so he unveiled the SCG004S, which is his new car. Whereas the 003, which was the previous one, was a limited production one. This one, they're actually trying to do small volume production here in the United States. The last ones were you had to import them as kit cars, and they didn't have real VINs, all that kind of stuff. Now they're going to have actual VINs stamped on them. They're going to be built in the United States as a complete car, which is very cool. But anyway, as you can see, it's a mid-engine supercar. It's going to have a 5-liter twin-turbo V8 engine with 650 horsepower, 531 pound-feet of torque, and 8,200 RPM redline. And here's the thing. These are only going to weigh 2,600 pounds. So again, we're talking about a car that's like 150 pounds lighter than a BRZ with 650 horsepower, just to kind of give you an idea of how crazy this is going to be. Other glorious things. It has a 6-speed manual with a gated shifter, and you're sitting in the middle McLaren F1 style, which is awesome. So it's a 3-seat setup. You can get a paddle shift transmission if you want, but you know, who knows how good it'll be. I say just stick with the manual. Anyway, it's going to have a base price around $400,000 when it finally goes on sale. There's going to be 25 Founders Edition models in 2019, and then starting, well, I guess by the year 2021, they want to do 250 of these things every single year, which is a high number and very ambitious, but awesome that they're shooting for something that wide scale. And so, very cool to see that. Some more mundane news. Hyundai officially announced pricing for the 2018 Accent this past week. It's going to be starting at $15,880, and that's with a 6-speed manual transmission as standard. So very cool. You can still get it with a manual, and then if you want an automatic at that, it's like an extra $1,000 to it. But then it's a pretty good value. Even the top of the line limited model maxes out at $19,780. That's before options, but basically you get a fully loaded model for 20 grand. It's pretty awesome. And anyway, those upper two trims, there's like, it starts with SE, and then I think there's SEL, and then limited. And those top two trims are automatic only, so you can't get all the nice toys on the on the manual one, only on the automatics. Anyway, it uses a 1.6 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, 130 horsepower, 119 pound-feet of torque. So not a drag racer by any means, but good, affordable, reliable transportation. The base model actually even comes with air conditioning, power windows, cruise control, and Bluetooth, which might not sound notable, but competitors within the same family, like the Kia Rio base model, don't come with any of those things. So it's nice they're including all that for the low price of under $16,000. And anyway, those are going to be in dealerships soon. Subaru this past week announced they're going to be doing a special 50th anniversary edition of each of their models, and they're going to be revealing them at the Chicago Auto Show in February of next year. And so each of them is going to get a new common color, whatever that color is, we don't know, but it's going to be based on a high-level trim of each of those models, and it's going to have special badging, and they just say more details to come at the Chicago Auto Show. But I wouldn't be optimistic about anything beyond that. I'm sure it's just badges and, a limited production thing or something, and that's it. But anyway, cool to see them celebrating their 50th. You can't blame them for that. That's awesome. They've been selling cars here in America for 50 years, so very cool to see that. They also actually teased their Subaru Ascent 3-row crossover, which is going to be revealed next week at the LA Auto Show. And they basically just highlight the fact, look, it's got 3 rows of seats. And what we can see from the silhouette there is it looks very much like a large stretched out Outback. And that's kind of disappointing considering the Ascent concept actually looked very cool and aggressive and like a actual truck-based SUV almost. Whereas this now just looks like, again, a slightly larger Outback. A little bit disappointing, but again, this is the way Subaru rolls. They have very, very awesome concepts, and sadly, a lot of that concept flair gets lost in production, and just the way it goes with them. But anyway, we'll have to wait till we see the full thing revealed at the LA Auto Show next week. Mercedes, though, They actually are quite the opposite and seem to be really impressing us with some more and more impressive things here every day. First is not super impressive, but they showed 2 teaser images of the new CLS, which does look very sharp and beautiful, like you would expect a new Mercedes to look. The interior is similar to the E-Class and S-Class, with those same turbine-inspired air vents there, which are very cool. And they have backlighting now, it seems, and so nice to have all of that included. But the real notable thing was Mercedes randomly just revealed all these pictures of the A-Class interior this past week. Now, the A-Class we don't get here in the United States. That's for Europe. But, it's the hatchback, and we basically get that same hatchback lifted up a little bit and called the GLA for us in America who like an extra inch of ground clearance, and that makes all the difference in the world. So they're going to have, we'll basically be getting the same interior on the GLA and most likely in the CLA, the new next generation version of that. But as you can see, it looks so nice. It's crazy. They basically crammed the S-Class interior into the A-Class. And I don't know how they're doing this and keeping a similar price point as the outgoing model. Maybe they'll be a little more expensive and push them up market, but it's just crazy. It's got the same steering wheel as an S-Class in this small car. It's got the same, they're saying it's a standard dual widescreen display. This isn't an option. This is standard. The same basic displays you get in any of these other nicer, larger, much more expensive Mercedes. The same turbine air vents with ambient lighting. And even, listen to this, the seats are going to have available heating and cooling, which on its own is very nice. But you can even get massage for the A-Class interior seats, which is crazy. So the next gen CLA, GLA, you'll be able to get massage seats and a little, compact crossover. It's pretty mind-blowing. Mercedes just keeps upping the interior game for the rest of the world, it seems, and it's really crazy. But anyway, so I'm not sure when they're going to be officially revealing that. Maybe the Geneva Motor Show in March. But anyway, very, very impressive to see that. Another interior that we actually saw this past week was Hennessey has shown off the Venom F5 interior. Now, we've already seen the exterior and all their claims of 300 miles per hour and all that kind of stuff. But now we see what the interior looks like. There's going to be 2 different setups available. You can get one with the steering wheel in, or a screen in the actual steering wheel for more of a racier, application for those that want to track them and stuff. And there's going to be a standard setup with gauges behind the steering wheel. And the steering wheel is a little more standard with an airbag in it and all that kind of stuff, and that's something you can get as well. And so the interior looks very cool, though, very unique and exciting, and so cool to see that. Some spy shots this past week. BMW was spy testing a new i8 model. It's got some camouflage on it. Now, it could just be a minor refresh, but we've been hearing talks about an i8S. We've seen the i3S, which was a slightly faster version of the standard i3, and it looks like there may be an i8S in the works. That, according to, I think it was AutoGuide, the rumor is that it's going to go from 420 horsepower to 450, and it's going to have an updated interior as well with the new iDrive system and stuff. And they're saying this could debut actually alongside the Roadster version in LA next week. We haven't had any official teasers or anything, so it could be a little bit of a surprise, or it could just be something that gets debuted later on in the next couple of months. But anyway, cool to see that spied running around. Bentley was spied testing the Continental GTC this past week, and as you can see, they're driving in snowy climates with that roof down, and so very cold test drivers in those Bentleys, although I'm sure they have the heat cranked up. But anyway, we already knew, convertible GTC version of the Continental was coming for this new generation version, so there's not too much to be surprised about here, but cool to see them working on that, and I'm guessing that'll also be revealed at the Geneva Motor Show here in March. Another vehicle that could be debuting again at the Geneva Motor Show in March is Rolls-Royce was spied with the Cullinan SUV that finally has some production taillights on it. So before it was just some dummy units that were just there in place of the official production taillights, and now we have some taillights that look basically the same as a Phantom's taillights, which is very predictable. I mean, this whole SUV basically looks like just a boxier version of the Phantom, because everyone just wants SUVs, so Rolls-Royce is doing their conservative version of a Rolls-Royce SUV. And I think it'll, sell very well and be very popular. But again, we'll have to wait till we get the actual, all the camouflage off of it to see what it really looks like. But anyway, cool to see that spied. Another vehicle that was spied this past week was the 2019 Jeep Cherokee. It was actually spied in my own backyard of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here by someone named Matthew Young, who sent the pictures into Autoblog. And as you can see, we've seen some spy shots of this Cherokee already elsewhere, and so it's got the more traditional styling. They kind of toned it down over the previous Cherokee looks, and I think it looks very good. I think it's a huge improvement. So yeah, it looks like it's fairly far along and could be a potential candidate to be shown at the Detroit Auto Show in January. That would make sense. Or it could wait again till the Chicago Auto Show in February, since a lot of trucks and SUVs get revealed there as well. And so anyway, cool to see that Spied running around, and I'm surprised I didn't see it whenever I was driving around, because apparently they've been making the rounds in Pittsburgh here. Another SUV that looks a lot like a Jeep Cherokee was Hyundai. They've been doing very similar styling with the Kona, and now with this new SUV that was spied running around completely uncamouflaged, which is kind of interesting. But what this is most likely is their new hydrogen fuel cell crossover, which just last week I talked about how Hyundai officially announced their plans for, I think, 8 new crossovers over the next 2 years, and this was one of them. They said there's going to be some kind of, hydrogen fuel cell thing coming, and it's coming to the United States as well. And so as you can see, it has some Cherokee inspired looks there in the front. The back end looks very cool and unique though, and so it does look very good there. We don't have any kind of name for this thing yet as far as what they're going to call it, but Autoblog's reporting it's going to debut at the Consumer Electronics Show in January in Vegas. So we'll have to wait to see it then. But anyway, cool to see that spied out running around. Another viewer that sent in some spy photos here this past week was Thomas, who sent in some pictures of a Camaro. It looks like a Camaro ZL1 1LE, but you can see it has some camo on it, but some of the camo's been removed. Like it had heavier camo on, but then was taken off. And it's kind of strange. So it doesn't have the spoiler of the 1LE, but it looks like it has the front end of the 1LE. It has some interesting covering over the hood. And so it could go a couple of different ways. I mean, we know that the 2019 Camaro is getting a refresh for the 2019 model year. And we're not sure if the higher performing versions are going to get the new looks and styling that, the standard SSs and stuff have been spied running around with. That's been heavily camouflaged. They have a huge nose cone over them, so you can't tell what's going on in that front end. So not sure, if this is just for the refresh, or maybe they're toying around with putting like the new ZR1 motor into the ZL1 1LE, possibly. I don't know. 750 horsepower in a Camaro would be a very good response to the Demon. Although it seems like the Camaro ZL1s haven't had too much trouble keeping up with Hellcats, which have higher horsepower, but could be cool to do some kind of Demon competitor. We also know Ford is at some point in the future revealing some type of Cobra high-performance Mustang, which will probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 750 horsepower as well. So it could be Chevy's trying to be ahead of the curve here and get their 750 horsepower muscle car ready to go too. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, thanks to Thomas for sending in those pictures. And some other interesting stuff here. Last 2 stories this past week. Auto Guide has discovered this past week that Mitsubishi has filed a trademark for the Raider name. And now they used to have a vehicle called the Raider. It was a pickup truck that was basically a rebadged Dodge Dakota back in the day. And so they kind of got rid of that because it wasn't very popular. And so what they are going to use the Raider name for this time remains to be seen. It could just be they're just keeping it on tabs and they're just, keeping it within their collection of names, and they might not even use it on anything in the future, so you never really know with these trademark filings. But it could be for some kind of future SUV. We know that Mitsubishi is going to have more and more SUVs, and that could be a good SUV name. It could also be, since now they have this merger with Nissan, starting in 2020, they're going to be having access to Nissan vehicles that they can rebadge or rework, for the Mitsubishi brand. So it could be that, they could be taking the next-gen Frontier or even the current Titan and, putting Mitsubishi badges on those and calling them the Raider. Who knows? But anyway, interesting to hear that. We'll have to just wait and see what happens with that. The last story this week is a vehicle that was killed off, and that is the Toyota Prius V. It was getting killed off for the United States and Puerto Rico. Other areas we're not sure of yet. We know in Japan the Prius V is very popular, so they're going to continue selling it in Japan for the foreseeable future, but it doesn't sell well here in the States, and that's primarily because the first year it did very well, but then after that, it never really got as great a fuel economy as the standard Prius, which hurt it a little bit. And anyone who wanted more space would just go buy a RAV4 hybrid, which had the better ground clearance, which every American loves. And you had all-wheel drive, which was good, and all that kind of stuff. So the Prius V never really fit in quite as well here in the States in our marketplace. And so they're finally killing it off. And most enthusiasts aren't in love with Priuses anyway, so I don't think anyone's going to be too upset about that one getting killed off. But anyway, interesting to hear that. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on everything in the comments below. Let me know if you think that spy shot is of a Mazda Speed 3 or not, and what do you think of everything else. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.